Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Elliot Webber and it is unfortunately the fourth and final BTCC preview video ahead of this weekend's opening 3 races. But this one, to me, is the most interesting question. Who will win the 2023 Jack Sears Trophy? So, as always, let's get straight into this. Yes, guys, that is right. We are asking the question, who will become 2023 Jack Sears Trophy Champion? Now, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who might be new to BTCC this year, the Jack Sears Trophy is an award for drivers who are yet to achieve an overall podium finish in the BTCC. So, for example, Bobby Thompson, last year's champion before 2022, he did not have any overall podium finishes, but of course he did have one at Brands Hatch last year, which of course, while he went on to win the JST, he can no longer compete for it this year. Nor can George Gamble, who of course took his first podium in his second ever race, and then would of course later on win another race at Knock Hill. So who can compete? Well, of course, some of the rookies can. Ronan Pearson and Andrew Watson and Mikey Doble, of course, 3 of the BTCC rookies this year. They will all be eligible because, of course, it is their first seasons. Sam Osborne and Jade Edwards are also notable names who have won races in the JST before. Sam Osborne, who has been around since 2019 in the BTCC, and Jade Edwards, who has been on the touring car grid full time since 2021. So those two could also be some names. Another 2 names who some people have thrown about is Nick Halstead and Will Powell. Of course, Nick Halstead and Will Powell will both be making their first full-time campaigns this year. So yeah, those are just some names who could win it. But who are realistically the notable names? I think starting off, we have to talk about Sam Osborne. Sam Osborne, of course, son of Pete Osborne, the new owner of Motorbase Performance, now currently known as Napa Racing UK. Sam's an interesting cookie. I think he's an interesting one. He's been around since 2019. Debuted at Accelerate Motorsport after a couple of years in the Clio Cup. Didn't really perform well in his first year. Then 2020 he moved to MB Motorsport alongside Jake Hill, where he improved massively. He had his best career finish of P7, still his best finish to date. So he was a regular point scorer. So yeah, I think 2020 was a good year. Then 2021 he made the move to Motorbase Performance. Of course, his dad acquiring the team as well from Dave Bartram. So that was sort of a transitional year in 2021, but again, was a regular point scorer. In fact, he was even competing for some top 10s. I don't think he got any though, from my memory. And then of course, 2022, it was another year at Motorbase Performance where, for some reason, it was only the Napa Fords that were able to get anywhere close to the top 10. I think Ollie Jackson did have a top 10 once or twice in 2022 at Silverstone, I believe it was, but Sam Osborne was seemingly the least successful out of the 4 Fords last year in it. And honestly, looking at this year's lineup, that's probably going to stay the same. Of course, Sam has to sort of compete with 3-time champion Ash Sutton, multiple-time race winner Dan Camish, and then Dan Rowbottom as well, joining the team with his multiple podiums and a race victory to his name. So Sam, unfortunately, on paper, he's the worst driver at Motorbase and at Napa, but that's not to discredit his talents. I do think Sam has potential to compete for podiums and maybe win a race at some point, whether that might be this year or maybe a few years down the road, who knows. But I think Sam Osborne is definitely going to be a name that's going to be up there in the JST this year. I can definitely see him being in the top 3 of the Jack Sears Trophy, so 100% I can see him up there. Another name who I think is going to do really well is the rookie of Ronan Pearson. Ronan, of course, moving up from the Mini Challenge this year, was a multiple race winner and a title contender in the Mini Challenge last year. And Ronan, I have no doubt, will, in my opinion, I think he'll be the best rookie. He is, of course, debuting at Accelerate Motorsport, effectively the reigning champions, who, of course, they do have the reigning drivers champion in Tom Ingram. They also, of course, have multiple-time race winner Tom Chilton, and, of course, as I said earlier, Nick Halstead as well is at that team. So as for Ronan, I don't think he's going to be better than Ingram and Chilton, but I do think he will get the better of Nick Halstead in that inter-team battle. Ronan, Ronan, it's a really tough one to predict rookies. But Ronan, he knows front-wheel drive from his experiences in Mini Challenge, and I genuinely think come the end of the year, I think I can probably see Ronan getting a few top 10s. Maybe he'll be up there in a reverse grid at some point. So yeah, Ronan Pearson is another man who I think will be up there in the JST. Dexter Patterson, one who I didn't mention at the start, but Dexter Patterson as well. I think Dexter has a lot of potential. Of course, he's only young. He's 19 years old. However, he is sort of at a setback. He's got to actually learn front-wheel drive for the first time. Of course, last year he was in the rear-wheel drive Infinity, and then before that he was in rear-wheel drive single-seater cars, of course, racing in GB3 in 2021. So Dexter's a difficult one, but and also talking about the Dan Lloyd video, it really does depend on whether that Cupra will be competitive or not. It seems like it was at the back end of last year. Of course, Bobby Thompson, as I said, getting podiums last year and competing for podiums at the back at Brands Hatch. So it really does, like, Team Hard are such a complicated team where you don't know if one round they'll be up there or one round they'll be right at the back again. So it is an interesting one. But Dexter Patterson, no doubt, I think adaptability might favour him a bit. I think he is really good at adapting. I think he adapted really well to touring car racing last year, especially at such a young age as well. So yeah, no doubt I can see Dexter Patterson being up there. But again, really does depend on that Cupra, I think. Who else? I think Power Max as well. They've got two really good drivers. Of course, they have got Aaron Taylor-Smith, but of course, him being a multiple-time race winner, he is not eligible for the Jack Sears Trophy. But as I mentioned, they do have two rookies in Andrew Watson and Mikey Doble. First off, let's talk about Andrew Watson, a very successful GT career for him, racing at tracks like Le Mans and such. So Andrew, I think Andrew Watson actually might be up there. He's very experienced, but he's also still quite young. He's still in his 20s, so yeah, it's again a tough one, because Andrew has to learn front-wheel drive and he has to learn the ways of touring car racing. We've seen it a lot, where a lot of ex-GT racers, a lot of ex-endurance racers come from endurance racing to BTCC, and they struggle a lot. I mean, look at Andy Nee, who is quite an interesting name that some people will definitely remember from 2021. Andy Nee was a GT racer. In GT racing, he was phenomenal. A multiple-time race winner in Britcar and British GT. Came to BTCC and he wasn't that driver. So GT drivers are a very interesting bunch, aren't they? But as for Andrew Watson, I think again adaptability might have to favour him. If he's good at adaptability, then we'll find out. But yeah, as for Andrew Watson, I can definitely see him being up there. I can definitely see him scoring points. Won't be surprised if he scores points in his first race at Donington Park this weekend. I think he will do very well. Of course, endurance races, they have to stay very fit and very light as well. And I think fitness will actually favour him a little bit. So, of course, if he stays fit throughout the year, I think 100% we'll see Andrew Watson in the top 10 at some point. As for Mikey Doble, an interesting one. He's coming from club level racing. However, he's got two championships that he won last year. He is the reigning BMW Compact Cup champion and the Ginetta GT5 champion. Two very hard championships to win. They might only be club level, but still, you do need some talent to win those races. And the fact, and one thing I was quite surprised by is he's actually quite young as well. Mikey is only 24 years old at time of recording. So again, he might have some potential. Again, I can't tell you that until we see his first races. So yeah, again, he's another one who has to learn front-wheel drive, he doesn't seem like a stranger to tin top racing. The BMW Compact Cup is a very competitive championship, and if you're in the UK at some point, try and find a club level event at your local track, because trust me, you will enjoy it. Mikey Doble, again, I didn't know who he was before he got announced, so I'm not expecting much from him, but I definitely think that he could be up there come the end of the year. Again, it all depends on how well he adapts to front-wheel drive and adapts to tin top and touring car racing. So Power Max is an interesting one. But yeah, for Andrew Watson, I can see top 10s and points at the end of the year. For Mikey Doble, I think Doble could get some points, but I do feel like it will have to take a chaotic race for him to be in there. As for Jade Edwards, I think we should talk about her now. As for Jade, she's going into her third year of BTCC, and it's usually then your third year is when you start to get a little bit more serious. You know, you have your 2 years of fun, and then it's cracking on time. As for Jade, I mean, I'm actually one of her more positive feedbackers. I think that's the right word. I do see potential in Jade. I know she has got a lot of haters, but she also has got a lot of fans as well. I think Jade definitely has potential, but again, she has some very, very strong teammates. Of course, she's moving into what is now a 6-car team at Team Hard. Of course, Bobby Thompson is staying on there. Dexter Patterson, as I've mentioned, is moving over. And as well, Dan Lloyd, who seems to be their star signing at Team Hard. I feel like Jade might struggle to find a place in that team. But again, we have seen it. We have seen Jade get her elbows out and fight for points and top 10s. Of course, she hasn't had any top 10s yet, but we have seen it. Alton Park and Brands Hatch last year in 2022 were her best rounds performance-wise. And I think that we will see more of that this year. Of course, there are less cars on the grid this year, which might help everyone. Because less drivers means higher chance of scoring points, higher chance of getting more prizes and whatnot. But yeah, Jade is an interesting one. I think she'll do well. I think she will perform well. I think lack of testing will hold her back though. Her car was not at Brands Hatch for Media Day. Of course, the car was not ready. Her car, at least, was not ready for testing. I do believe she has done some test days already though. I know that BTCC and the rest of the TOCA package are actually shaking down their cars right now as we speak at Donington Park. So I do believe she's out there shakedown in her car, testing her car for the first time. But I do think that lack of testing already might hinder her at the start of the year. But I think eventually we will see her come to, and eventually we will see her fighting for points. Someone else who I haven't spoken about before now is Will Powell. Of course, he was the very last driver announced of the 2023 grid. Of course, he is joining Aidan Moffat and Josh Cook at One Motorsport. No doubt do I see Aidan and Josh being the front runners of that team. We saw Will Powell last year at a few rounds, of course, with Team Hard, but now moving into that Honda team. Again, another interesting one. Will Powell has had experience in GT racing, which he was moderately successful in. But again, it's a tough one to predict. But for Will, I think he's going to be at the back the majority of the year. Unfortunately, I don't like to, critique drivers, but yeah, I don't see Will Powell doing very well. I think he'll be lucky to score a point this year. But who knows? Of course, we know that Team Dynamics, of course, aren't racing this year, but they are giving some technical aids to One Motorsport. Of course, that Neil Brown Honda engine that One Motorsport will use should hopefully help them become more of a championship contender. But as for Will, I don't see it happening. Unfortunately, I only see him scoring 1 or 2 points this year. But I'm very happy to be proven wrong. And then, last but not least, let's talk about Nick Halstead. Nick, very successful in GTs. He is a Brit Car Endurance champion, a race winner in British GT, which, if you do watch British GT, then you'll know that is a very, very hard championship to win in. So, Nick, fair play to him, a British GT champion. How will he perform in touring cars? We've seen it before. He has made a few appearances before in the BTCC and in TCR UK. So that's 2 British touring car championships that he's raced in. He was okay in TCR. He had a pole position in 2019 and was competing for race wins. But that was when TCR had about 7-8 cars on the grid. But still, to get a pole position, it's not too bad. But how will he deal with now 26 other cars on the grid in a full season? Might I add, his first full season. I don't know, but that Hyundai is now a very good car. As I mentioned earlier, it's now technically the car to have, as it won the championship last year. So I do think Nick will be. I think Nick will improve. I think I can definitely see him scoring points at some point. But again, it really all depends. So now we've broken down the drivers who I think could be up there. But now let's talk about my prediction as to who will become the 2023 Jack Sears Trophy Champion. So yes, who is my prediction to become 2023 Jack Sears Trophy Champion? I've mentioned the names, I've mentioned what might help them become the JST champion this year, but I am going to go with my pick for the Jack Sears Trophy, and I've tried to convince myself otherwise because it's very left field, this prediction, but I am going to say Ronan Pearson will become the Jack Sears Trophy Champion. His rookie year, I've watched him since he raced in Mini Challenge, so about 3 years I've been watching him now. There's so much potential in Ronan, and I definitely think with the aid of Accelerate, the Hyundai engine, the Hyundai car as well, with a champion as his teammate and a multiple race winner as his teammate, sort of aiding him as well, but become a better driver, I definitely see Ronan Pearson being the one to become Jack Sears Trophy Champion. But that's my prediction. But let me know your prediction in the comments below, guys. Who do you think will become the Jack Sears Trophy Champion this year? What are your predictions for all the drivers I've mentioned? Will I be wrong about them or will I be correct? Who knows? The majority of my predictions are wrong anyway. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Of course, if you are new around here, be sure to like this video, share with your mates as well, because it, of course, does help my channel grow. And, of course, click that red subscribe button because, as always, we are firmly on the road to 200 subscribers. I, as always, keep saying I aim to have 200 subscribers by the summer break, so be sure to subscribe and share with your mates. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.